Hi, my name is Fatima and I live in the UK in London, and I work to counter and prevent violent extremism within London. So I was in charge of Chapter 3, which is Education, Safeguarding and Primary Prevention. Even though I do prevention on a day job, people always ask me, what is prevent? What is prevention, and how can you safeguard people, and how useful is education? I want to break those three down for you. For me, it's a cycle. You cannot have primary prevention if you do not have education, and you cannot safeguard effectively if you don't have education and safeguarding, or education and prevention. Now let me break that down and explain what that actually means. Primary prevention, I argue, is essentially done through education, and education is essentially a form of primary prevention that actually leads to safeguarding. Education is the biggest tool we have. I've always said we need to educate to inoculate. And what I mean by that is, if you educate someone against the harms of extremism, you can build resilience within them. You can provide them with critical thinking skills, and you can give them the tools that they need to discern between extremist propaganda so that they can reject, dispel, and deconstruct the underlying ideology that is within that. That is incredibly difficult to do when you're trying to prevent someone from being a terrorist. You can't just go up to them and say to them, don't be a terrorist, because that doesn't work. You have to give them a better alternative, and a lot of the times that happens through education. Whether it's formal education or informal education, it is both effective. Safeguarding essentially happens when you give a young person the tools to think critically, allow them to discern between what is right and what is wrong. Not just tell them that extremism is wrong, but why is it wrong? The other aspect of prevention is recognizing that someone is vulnerable. You cannot safeguard someone without knowing them. You can't say to them, I'm here to keep you safe. That's the function of the police, but you ask the police to help you. But with primary prevention, it's about knowing who you are safeguarding, why you are safeguarding them, and what the vulnerability is. Now in my chapter, you'll have the chance to read what I would call the vulnerability matrix. And I know the other chapters touch on it, but I also want to give you an understanding of how prevention works when you take into consideration what the vulnerabilities are that predispose someone to an extremist propaganda. These are having a grievance. Whether it's when I was young, seeing 7/7 happen and saying, why am I the Muslim, having to apologize for extremists who killed in the name of my religion. That's a grievance I had. I chose to channel it in the correct way. Why? Because my education allowed me to channel that in the right way. At home, the primary prevention that my parents gave me was to be able to question my identity, to be confident in who I am. The other one is the us versus them mentality. In order to do effective primary prevention, you need to tackle the us versus them mentality. Extremists capitalize on creating a binary between myself and yourself at the other end. We are all the same, we're both human, we both have similar grievances. How we channel that is important, and being able to understand that someone is trying to capitalize on our differences, that will give us the resilience and the know-how to know that we can safeguard ourselves effectively. What unites us is more important than what divides us. Another vulnerability, and I think hasn't been undergone or hasn't been highlighted enough, is mental health. A lot of people suffer from mental health, and that is a vulnerability that extremist groups exploit. A lot of women have gone on to join extremist groups over the last 2 years, and we ask ourselves why. When I do prevention efforts, when you are conducting prevention efforts, you need to understand the gender-based pathways to becoming radicalized. Now going back to how you can effectively safeguard someone through prevention and education, it's really, really important. Dialogue, debate, and understanding is critical when conducting a primary prevention effort through education. We need to equip our young people with the critical thinking skills, the ability to scrutinize, the ability to raise their spiritual and religious, moral, and spiritual literacy, to give them the ability to question things. I think it's incredibly important. Education should not be done as though I'm teaching you about something. We're having a conversation. We're having a dialogue. You teach the teacher in a way also. When it comes to doing this for CVE, it's about making people aware of the dangers of social media. allowing them to use social media in an effective way. I have one specific call for every young person out there. The statistics that relegate you to failure, defy those statistics. Because when you defy those statistics, you can make change happen. So my call to action is asking everyone to embrace the fact that they're called a failure and to prove the people that are calling you a failure, prove them wrong.